So I'm out on a walk, and this is my neighborhood. I have this little park by my house, and I walk up this road, and at the end of it is the high school. And I like to walk there because they have a track and they have a lot of woods and trails, and I've really been trying to walk as much as possible, trying to get to 10,000 steps, but man, I'm still so tired. Sometimes it's really hard to motivate. This must be the most unflattering angle of any video. If it's here, oh, look at that, see? Flattering. Okay, well, I was all scheduled up for my endoscopy. I was gonna do it on August 1st, and I thought about it, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. I talked to the doctor who does the endoscopy, and he's like, oh, it's fine, it's no big deal. I do like 1,000 of these a year. He does like 5 a day or something, and you're gonna be fine, you take the Versed and the fentanyl, and it's gonna be okay. But, they also don't know what a person's state is. I really do think that I struggle with PTSD now in a way. I heard someone recently say, it was a young girl actually that died recently of cancer, and she was saying how she had so much anxiety and she never had anxiety before that. I could really relate to that. I mean, I'm not going to say I never had anxiety, but flying on an airplane now is terrifying. I was never terrified. I mean, I flew like 16, 18, 20 hours to get to India 7 times and didn't have an issue with it. And now I just went an hour down to LA and I'm like, ah. It was basically okay, but there were moments of just like what feel almost like panic, and I never had that before. So even though the doctors will like diagnose you with it, the radiation oncologist is the one who told me, like, oh yeah, you have PTSD. And it's from going through cancer treatment. That wasn't all the other stuff that came after that. So when I talked to the endoscopist, he's just sort of like, he's not brushing me off, but he is just like, it's just not a big deal. I guess that's brushing me off. I have talked to him now twice. I had it scheduled once, but I've said that I'm going to do it 2 different times now. And then I just like backed out. I contacted their office and was like, I just can't do it. I really like walking over here because it's just so lovely and no one's really out here, and it's a beautiful campus. My daughter's going to go to school here next year. It's high school, so she'll be in 9th grade. So I'm going to miss the opportunity to have a camera in my chest and potentially see whatever there is to see there. I mean, I don't know how interesting or not it's going to be inside my chest cavity in my stomach, but hopefully it's not that interesting. I'm not going to let him do it. Now I'm scheduled to get, I think, a chest CT. Is it a PET CT every year or just a chest CT every year? The radiation oncologist was fine with me having yearly imaging. And I, not that long ago, had a chest CT. And then also not that long ago, I had a PET CT. And my thought is if something didn't show up on that, then I'm not going to worry about it. I'm so happy that, I've gotten to this point where I can say something like that. Like, I'm not going to worry about it, because I've really been coming to understand, like, the degree to which I actually do worry about things and have worried about things, and I don't think it's helpful. When I had done some research on the spleen, because that's, I think, where my platelet issue is happening, it's usually either like in the bone marrow, or the spleen is like consuming the platelets, one or the other. Anyway, the spleen, I think it was in Chinese medicine, or it was in some sort of like Oriental Asian medicine, however you say it. No one says the word Oriental anymore. Brain loss there. It was in that type of Asian medicine that it said the spleen, whenever you have a spleen issue, the associated connection with the emotion is worry. And my daughter just told me recently, we were talking about how everybody has an issue. Everybody's got something they're working on, or everybody's got their downside. Everything has an upside and a downside. And each person has the downsides in terms of like hanging out with them. And let's see, my downside was that she said from her point of view, the downside about me was that I worry too much. And I think I worry a lot more since I've gone through all the health stuff that I've gone through, because I've just, like looked back and taken account of all of it, taken an account of like all the stuff I've been through, realizing like I really did go through such crazy stuff. Like I didn't even really know how bad it was as I was going through it. And now that I look back, I'm like, it's a miracle that I lived through that. It really is. It's an actual miracle that I survived. The emergency surgeries, multiple hematomas, expander breaking through my skin and dripping when I'm on a trip. across the country with my daughter, getting admitted to the hospital with 11,000 platelet. 11,000 is like you could just spontaneously bleed out. Like you don't even need to hit anything to cause, bleeding to happen. So really all of that to say that I don't want to put myself through the stress and added lowercase t trauma, not uppercase t trauma, lowercase t trauma of going through sedation, having a thing stuck down my throat. I was just listening to Dr. Berg. I've talked about him before. I like him. He's a doctor of chiropractic. He's not a medical doctor, but I think he's still pretty intelligent and understands a lot of things and has devoted his life to that practice. He reminded me of something I had come across before, which was that cancer is an afflicted, the mitochondria are afflicted in a cell. I'm not very science-minded. I don't really know a lot about that, but where there's inflammation is often a place that cancer can spread to. And something even as non-invasive, something as simple as the inflammation that happens, like when they stick the endoscopy tube down your throat, often you can have a sore throat for a lot of days. It's very irritating. So I'm just like thinking to not irritate any part of my body. And really, I feel like I looked at it somewhat logically in the sense of like considering, okay, what information might I obtain? Is it worth it? Like a cost-benefit ratio. Because to me, approaching things like with as much level-headedness as I can is important. I think I value that. I value level-headedness and clear thinking and balanced, rational thinking, and not just like gut emotional reaction, especially in this case. So I don't think I would get that great of information for what the possible damage could be. And I also think it could just like set back whatever reparation my body is doing, hopefully, with recovering from the platelet issue that I have that's come from all the cancer treatments. I don't want to set myself back anymore. I don't want to do one step forward, two steps back. I'm trying to take one step forward and another step forward and not take any steps back. Wow, there's a lot of poison oak out here. Let's see. I didn't know what it was for a long time, but I'm going to show you some. There's poison oak, leaves of 3, let them be. We have a lot of poison oak out here. I'm also just getting myself like comfortable or adjusting to the idea of not knowing why I have blood in my phlegm, why I had the constriction in my throat. The constriction has not gotten any worse, and it hasn't ever caused me any sense of like I can't breathe. Oh, this dog. There's a dog over here that looks so cute. I've experimented with a lot of different like health food eating protocols too. A lot of people do like low fat or no fat, vegan, like meatless, lots of juicing and stuff like that. And I had done some research on a guy. I did a video really early on. It was pretty controversial, but it was about eating all raw meat. And I just was listening to Dr. Berg too, who was talking about a lot of the studies about the saturated fat and eating meat is eating really poor quality meat. Most people, unfortunately, don't have access, and it costs so much to eat really high quality, organic, grass-fed, grass-finished, this whole, thing about meat. Whenever I buy that meat, it's super expensive. I mean, it might be even like $23 a pound or something like that. It's crazy, right? I've like tried a lot of different things with eating. Looked into the medical medium. A friend talked about him, and I like checked out what he's about. And he's got a heavy metal cleanse, and it just was like I was so saturated with platinum since I did carboplatin with TCHP, the breast cancer, the chemo that I did for that. I couldn't believe how much platinum I had in my body. So obviously I'm still completely saturated with heavy metals. I'm doing his shake, he's got a shake. It's so good. I actually really love it, which I think there might be something to when you really like the taste of something, like your body is craving it, like it's really good for you. It's cilantro and dulse and barley juice powder and a couple other things. I feel pretty lucky that I'm I've gotten myself this far past my diagnosis was October 2017. Today is July 6th, 2022. I'm on TikTok and I'm just like seeing all these young people that are dying and seeing people who are diagnosed after me who aren't living, and it's just like, it makes me realize, I mean, it's sad, it's heartbreaking, but it also just makes me realize how lucky I am actually to still be alive, really. You know, last we checked, I was no evidence of disease, so I went from stage 3B, which is definitely not stage 4. I think the people that have gone from stage 4 to no evidence of disease are like experiencing a miracle. A lot of the people I know who are in that situation have spent many tens of thousands on their healthcare, and that is definitely not available for most people. I feel really sad about that. I feel so sad that we know certain things work to prevent cancer or to eradicate cancer in the body, but why does high-dose vitamin C need to cost hundreds of dollars and you need to do it over and over? Or the hyperbaric oxygen chamber, I think buying one is like $3,000 plus. And supposedly, if you just go and do a session in it, you can't just do like one session. I don't even know if you can do 20 sessions. You have to do like a lot. So you either spend like hundreds or thousands of dollars or you buy one. Who can do that? And most people can't. If I were to become stage 4, I might seriously look at just asking a friend for money, or, you know, I'm not sure what, taking a small loan and buying a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. Isn't that crazy? So I'm doing that smoothie, and I'm not having dairy, or I'm really limiting my dairy because I can't remember the percent that I was estrogen positive. You know, you get that whole like histology that shows like what percent estrogen, what percent HER2, and I'm pretty sure it was pretty high. So I feel like the fact that I'm not doing the endocrine therapy, which is also radical, I'm totally going rogue not doing that, but I am taking a good amount of broccoli seed extract. I'm taking that, which is a huge estrogen blocker. I cannot put myself through any more torture. When I was diagnosed, my daughter was 8, and she's 13 now. She'll be 14. And of course she still needs me. Of course I still need her. You know, I'm still important in her life, but it's different now, honestly. She's at that age where she's like going out into the world and exploring and learning about herself and all that kind of thing. And like, I know that she would be okay, whereas before when she was 8, I mean, I didn't know. Like, wow, she was still so attached to me, and of course it would just be devastating if I did die and she's young. I do feel better about it. I really do. I feel a lot better about the fact that she's a bit older now and not like this young child. She's still young, but she's not so young. So I'm just like coming to grips with the possibility of like, well, I just want to be ready whenever I die. And I'm looking at like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, what does it mean to be ready? I feel like last couple times when I've gone to edit my video, I haven't posted it because when I listen to myself, I hate to say this, but it's true. I feel so judgmental of my mental state. I just don't feel as sharp or as clear as I used to. Maybe some of that's just getting old. But it doesn't feel like that. It really does feel... I've told the doctors that I think that cognitive decline is real for people who are even under 65. Like, they just say, oh yeah, you know, the studies just show that it causes trouble for people who are older than 65. And I'm like, well, I'm 47, I'll be 48. That's not that different from 65. Like, it's still, I mean, if I was 30, that would be different. But I know, I experience for myself that I am experiencing cognitive decline since everything I've gone through. So when I listen to my videos, sometimes I'm just like, I sound like I just don't make sense. I don't know if it's don't make sense. It's more like just not as sharp as I was. And so it's a little bit confronting, you know, it's a little bit like, oh, can I really accept myself as I am now? And I think that is part of when I say be ready to die, you know, just be right inside myself. My daughter and I took a great, amazing trip for 10 days. We went to Oregon. We Did a road trip. It was awesome. It's part of the being ready. We just went and hung out with my mom for a few days, and really it's just like quality time with the people that I love as I'm able to without pushing myself. So my spiritual practices are really important to me, and I have a spiritual community and teacher and people that mean a lot to me, and I want to be right inside myself, you know. When I think about what really matters and what's important to me, my daughter, my mom, my dad's wife, my friends, my spiritual practice, my cats, and whatever kind of good impact I could make on the people around me, whether it's through a video or whether it's through a conversation. Sometimes I feel like it's hard to affect change outside my like really immediate sphere, but so what? I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and I know that I made a difference for him in that conversation. I could tell, I could feel it, you know, and it was just like, it's just such a great feeling to know that you can contribute to people in a positive way. So that's important to me as well. I feel like I just went down like 4 different trains of thought, but I'm feeling good about my food. I know I don't feel like I finished my thought about what I'm eating and not eating. I've dialed back the dairy a lot. I'm only eating it in just very small measure. I'm also just eating less. Yeah, another thing that I would do if I became stage 4 or if the cancer returned, even if it returned locally, and technically that wouldn't be stage 4, is really intense intermittent fasting. Here's what I would do if I was totally disciplined and had the money. I'd buy a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I would intermittent fast fairly regularly, like I'd do short fast and I would do long fast. I would cold plunges. If you're not familiar with Wim Hof, he really has a lot of information and data on plunging into cold waters, ice bath, and taking cold showers and stuff like that. And I suck at it. I'm so undisciplined in so many ways. Even getting out here and taking a walk, I'm just like, ugh. You know, I have to force myself a little bit. Then I would just take the supplements that I needed, and I would just get them without a reservation. I end up spending $1,000 a month on supplements. I would do high-dose vitamin C IVs, and that might be it. I've said it before. I am 90% sure I wouldn't do chemo again. 100% sure I won't do radiation again. And surgery I'm open to. And that's another reason why I don't want to get sedated in any way, as I want to save any possible sedation or anesthesia that might be needed in the future for that occasion, because I know that I've experienced cognitive decline. I don't care when a doctor tells me that, oh yeah, there's no evidence that, you know, somebody in their 40s would experience long-term side effects like that. I don't believe it. I'm experiencing it. I hope there's more studies about that. I don't want to get dumber. I don't want to lose my ability to think holistically, to be able to wrap my brain around a semi-complex idea. I just can't do it anymore. And it sucks. That's part of, like, say, the new normal. I mean, I've gained 10 pounds, but basically okay with that. I've lost a few, actually, because I've been eating less and, like, cutting back the fat. That was another, like, you know, a lot of keto with the high fat. I'm not sure how I feel about that. This whole new normal thing. I have to get used to a new body, get used to a new mind. It's hard to, like, figure out who the fuck I am. You know, and some things are the same, but most of it's not. The medical world, you know, they're just trying to keep you alive, and that's great. If I was stage 3B, that's not good, and I'm so happy that I pivoted and went from doing all holistic naturopathic protocol to an allopathic one. I'm really grateful that I did that, and I wish that the money that I spent initially I could have used it a little bit more wisely, because I've learned so much more now. Time of diagnosis, I think this happens a lot. I think that women, or people, not just women, fall victim to this, which is like just throwing a whole bunch of money. The people who try something natural, throwing a whole bunch of money at it, you know, it's just like, oh my God, okay, well, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, and they hear about that, and people tell them about this and that, and you know, there's so many doctors out there that are ready to take your money. Fucking naturopathic doctors, like the one that I had, you know, he was very happy to take thousands and thousands of dollars in cash and, you know, not know what he was talking about. It really makes me sad, but I know there's a lot of other people who fall victim to that. But what can you do? To just like learn as you go. I'm really happy to get outside and take a walk and go for that 10,000 steps. I believe I used to just like poo-poo walking, thinking like, oh, it's no good. But it's actually great. The more that I studied it, the more that I saw that it's fantastic. It's wonderful. And like the faster you walk and get your heart rate up, now I know why old people would power walk. I could start power walking. Also been like lifting weights at home, which is so good too. I'm trying to strengthen my bones and avoid any of that osteopenia and osteoporosis that I was diagnosed with as well. So good to be outside. This weather is beautiful and I live in such a beautiful place. I'm happy that I have a body that is capable of walking and I have time in my schedule to be able to take a nice long walk. I feel really blessed. So it's just like they say, you know, some silver lining. One of the silver linings to cancer has been that I've had more time available to spend with my daughter and more time to take care of my health. And I don't know how I seriously bow down to the people who work a full-time job and have multiple kids, and I just, wow. I really don't know how people do it, but you do what you gotta do, you know? People are always like, you're so strong, you're so brave, you're so this and you're so that, and then those of us with cancer are like, yeah, you just do what you have to do, you know? You do what you have to do to live. It's like, I'm not particularly strong or brave. You would do the same thing when faced with it. So I guess some people do give up, but maybe that's the right thing to do. Maybe at some point you do need to give up because you're done. My friend's mom, she was older, she got cancer, and she was just kind of done. And her daughter knew that, and she just decided that that was it. She was ready to meet the Creator, and she took her last breath, and she went peacefully. I have respect for that. I have a lot of respect for that, actually. All right. I don't know if I have an inspiring message or anything, but if I were to drop dead tomorrow, I guess my inspiring message for the moment would be, I don't know why that's funny, but something funny about it, would be to be true to yourself and being ready to die. I think it's such an opportunity to look at our lives and see the places where we're not being honest with ourselves and with others. Like, how many times are we doing things that we think we should do? I'm gonna sit. If I end up stage 4, I am not going to do anything I should do. I'm only going to do what I have to do and what I want to do. So for instance, a walk, I want to do it for the most part. And it also feels a little bit like a have to. Another have to would be like pay the bills or cook dinner, put the dishes away, whatever like that. How many times do I do something for somebody else that I feel like I should do? It's terrible. 47 years old and I still haven't removed the shoulds from my life. I feel like becoming as honest with ourselves, as truthful, as like aligned with who we feel we are and in our essential selves inside of ourselves, who we are essentially, being as aligned with that as possible. To me, that is a life well lived, knowing like if your days are numbered. If my days are numbered, I just want to align inside myself. Because if I'm honest, I'm keeping connections with certain people that feel extraneous. I hate to say that. They're people I've called friends, or they're people who I like, or they're people who, you know, I'm fond of, or whatever it is. But when it comes down to it, there's only so much time and energy in the world. Like I don't have the time and energy, or maybe even the desire, to keep in touch with everybody, especially dealing with cancer and the health issues. There's just not time to nurture all the relationships. There's just too many connections, and time is the thing, I think, the resource that is the most precious when we get cancer. I think we become aware of that, like, okay, well, how am I spending my time? I'd like to think that if I knew my days were numbered, I would streamline my life in a way so that time, the most precious resource, even more precious than money, because if you know you're dying, time is way more precious than money. I want to make sure I'm utilizing that resource as best I can for as long as I have. That's my inspiring message, is whatever you make of that. I can't really sum that up in one line, I don't think. Being true to ourselves and aligning with our the deepest part of ourself. It's nice, huh, out here. Hope you enjoyed the walk through the trees and my little walk today. I didn't get to 10,000 steps.